In the 4 games of the finals, Glenn Hall, the St. Louis goalie, stopped a remarkable total of 140 shots. He won the Conn Smythe Trophy, presented annually to the most valuable player in the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens have won the Stanley Cup a total of 15 times. 8 of the Cup victories under the guidance of Toe Blake within a span of 13 years. The spirit of St. Louis is known around the world. This year, that spirit invaded the hockey arena. Stanley Cup Finals opened in St. Louis. Philadelphia and Minnesota were the victims of the Blues in the quarter and semifinals, while the mighty Canadiens defeated Boston and Chicago. The words of the old song, 3 cheers for the red, white, and blue, have given way to the cheers of fans for the red, white, and blues of Montreal and the blues of St. Louis. Glenn Hall, almost invincible in the St. Louis net, was matched by Montreal's Gump Worsley, who along with teammate Rogatien Vachon skated off with the goalie's award of the season, the Vezina Trophy. Montreal's captain and inspiration, Jean Beliveau, was sidelined with a fractured leg. In the first game, Worsley had 36 shots to cope with, while the Montreal Canadiens tested Glenn Hall with a total of 38. Barclay Plager had the honor of being the first player in the expansion clubs to score a Stanley Cup Finals goal. He found the mark halfway through the first period. Joy in St. Louis turned to consternation 23 seconds later when Henry Richard tied the score. It was a typical Richard play all the way. He worked over to left wing and carried the puck to Hall's doorstep. And there it is, high into the top corner. Claude LaRose gave Richard a chance to repeat on a rebound. But Hall's leg was in the right place at the right time. So was Worsley's stick at the other end a few minutes later when St. Louis's Bill McCreary and Gary Sabarin ganged up on him. Then, behind Ralph Backstrom in full stride, comes the ever-present number 12, Yvon Cournoyer. how Worsley's stick stopped Sabourin's sure goal on the previous play. With Serge Savard in difficulty, Dickie Moore, Bartley Plager, and Red Berenson combined to put St. Louis again in the lead, 2-1. Number 12, Moore, was the marksman. Down 1 goal, Montreal forced the play. Bobby Rousseau failed in his bid to tie it up. But Yvon Cournoyer found the mark when John Ferguson slipped him a perfect pass. The score tied 2-2. Larry Keenan keeps Worsley's attention from straying too far from the business at hand. Berenson to Keenan as the Blues keep pressing. A loose puck. Berenson picks it up. Over to Moore. He shoots. And Keenan is right on the goal crease for the rebound. One of the sharpest of the St. Louis Blues triggermen, Frank St. Marseille, was playing in top form. A pass to Gary Sabourin, but the play failed to pay off. During the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the Stanley Cup Final, the Blues played a total of 8 overtime games. This was one of them. At the end of 3 periods, the score was deadlocked. St. Louis 2, Montreal 2. The best opportunity during the early moments of sudden death overtime came on a shot by the Blues' Frank St. Marseille. This young fan was for St. Louis all the way, but Montreal's Jacques Lemaire blew his hopes sky high. The final score, Montreal 3, St. Louis 2. The second consecutive game in St. Louis drew the largest crowd for any event in the history of the arena. This was to be the last time the Flying Frenchmen were to don their white road uniforms this season. They started their relentless pressure from the opening faceoff. Gump Worsley, 10 pounds lighter after 60 minutes of grueling hockey, would earn a shutout. Ralph Backstrom for the Canadiens to the always dangerous Ferguson. Then Jacques Laperriere from the point. Jimmy Roberts is still wondering how Worsley got his skate in the way of that one. Always play it tight on a Richard or he'll blast the game wide open. The same goes for Ron Schock of the Blues. A penalty to the home team is not the ideal situation when you're faced with the likes of Backstrom, Rousseau, Laperriere, Cournoyer, and Ferguson. Any one of the fearsome quintet is a scoring threat. Backstrom to Ferguson out in front. There's Cournoyer, stopped first by Hall, then by the boards. Watch Frank St. Marseille's shot hit the goalpost. Second period over, no score. Now the pressure is really on. 20 minutes of Stanley Cup hockey to go, and the first goal to be scored could be the one that wins the game. Backstrom, Cournoyer, and Ferguson, always alert, always dangerous to an already overworked Glenn Hall. Out to Harper for a shot. And Plager plays it safe by falling on the rebound. Laperriere to that familiar number 12, Cournoyer. far, Hall has had to handle 24 shots. Worsley 16 in the first 2 periods of play. Will one of them make a fatal error, which will mean the difference between a win and a loss? Only minutes gone in the 3rd period, and Montreal is a man short. St. Louis going all out. Larry Keenan, number 18, loses his stick, and things are back on even terms. The veteran penalty killer, Claude Provost, snares the puck. Provo to Savard, and Savard makes no mistake. Once again, the play that won the game for Montreal. Roberts couldn't get to the puck, but Savard did. It's 1-0. There were still around 17 and a half minutes to play, but the Canadiens smelled the sweet scent of home ice, and the defense closed ranks so tightly that St. Louis managed only 3 shots on goal during the remainder of the final period. Out comes Glenn Hall to be replaced with an extra forward, but the strategy didn't work. The Battling Blues lost their 2nd game, and the series moved to Montreal. But there were no Blues in St. Louis. They set out to join the battle of the Stanley Cup in the Montreal Forum, with fire in their eyes and confidence that an expansion team could hold their own in any ice arena of the NHL. It was here in the bustling, burgeoning city of Montreal in Centennial Year that the dream of an expanded league became reality. Written into the history books will be the fact that the St. Louis Blues were the first team in the expanded section to challenge one of the veteran clubs for the symbol of hockey perfection, the Stanley Cup. And their valiant challenge was superb. The Blues, in marshaling every ounce of desire and talent, were battling the powerful Canadiens with a tenacity beyond the expectations of their most devoted fans. Scotty Bowman, their young coach who took over in mid-season and brought the club from last place in the league to the Cup playoff, was a man to be reckoned with by even the great veteran master builder himself, Toe Blake. Montreal ice held no terrors for Bowman nor his inspired team. Canadiens a man short. Noel Picard from the point. Moore is there at the side of the net. Out to St. Marseille, and once again, St. Louis scores the first goal. The third game follows the format of the series. Close checking with neither team giving an inch. A break was in the making, but not at this end of the forum. The puck is finally cleared to Henry Richard. Richard to his teammate Cournoyer. And the game is tied, 1-1. Looking to take the lead again, the Blues are on the move. A rebound in dangerous territory. Terry Crisp in fast for St. Louis. Jacques Lemaire, during the series, became one of only 4 players in playoff history to score 2 overtime goals. He and his teammates fired an unbelievable total of 46 shots at beleaguered Glenn Hall during this third game. Worsley handled only 15. It's the second period. Number 11 is Claude Larose. It's Larose again. Doug Harvey managed the first shot, got a piece of the second, and then it was Hall's turn. The face-off with Montreal shorthanded. The Blues power play set for action. Savard breaks it up at the blue line and has Glenn Hall at his mercy. Montreal takes the lead 2-1. Let's have another look. Savard makes it look simple. Danny Grant gets a chance. Over to the trigger of Henry Richard. A long reach to Russo in the corner. Ferguson gets it. Bangs it at Hall. Cournoyer on the rebound. Red Berenson gets in stride for the first of his 2 goals of the game. Now it's 2-2. The third period, the teams have changed ends. Backstrom again moves the action into Blues territory. Cournoyer gets the puck and passes back to Backstrom. And the man who started the play gets the reward. Cournoyer to Backstrom. Montreal 3, St. Louis 2. But the fans never gave up back home in St. Louis, and the players weren't going to give up 1,000 miles away in Montreal. There were only minutes to play in regulation time, and the Blues had a reputation to maintain. What kind of a night was it? The same as it always was in this hard-fought series. Trombley lost control of the puck, and Berenson, the Red Baron, was right in there to raise the temperature of Gump Worsley. The score was tied. Now it was sudden death. The first goal in overtime would tell the story of the game, perhaps the series. Melnick for the Blues to McCreary. Dickie Duff picks up the loose puck. Russo for the rebound and the winner at 1:13 of overtime. As far as the Habs were concerned, it was 3 wins and 1 to go for the Stanley Cup. But not as far as the St. Louis club was concerned. The series was just beginning. After all, they only needed to win 4 straight. And if all it took was courage and drive to accomplish it, then the cup was in the bag. But it didn't look too rosy for St. Louis when Danny Grant slashed one at Hall with Provo and Richard in for the rebound. The fans in the Forum saw it only once, and that was enough. But let's take another look at it. St. Marseille passes to Roberts on Worsley's doorstep. J.C. Trombley to Grant. To LaRose. Glenn Hall in perfect form. Don McKenney for the Blues. To Gary Sabarin. There's Russo with a breakaway. Al Arbor makes a tremendous effort to stop him, but Glenn Hall succeeds. Another Richard demonstrates what the name Richard means to hockey. Spirit and desire, individual effort and team play. That's hockey. Here's a combination of all these attributes as number 8, Dick Duff for Montreal with Jacques Lemaire come up with a tremendous scoring play. Once again, Duff to Lemaire. To Duff, and in. Montreal leads 1-0. The Grant Richard Provo line at the face-off. Grant in front of Hall, waiting for the break. The power and grace of skating in professional hockey as Plager works his way up the ice. Plager to Schock. To Moore. Plager races to the goal mouth, covered by LaPerriere. During all the playoffs this season, veteran Dickie Moore scored 7 goals and 7 assists. Arbor from the point to Eccleston. And out to Craig Cameron for the tying goal. The score, 1-1. Less than 60 seconds later, St. Louis went into the lead when Frank St. Marseille worked his way behind the net. Don McKenney passed to Sabarin to complete the play. The speedy Rousseau was spearheading an attack for Montreal when the whistle blew to end the second period. J.C. Tremblay to Provo. Tremblay picks up the loose puck. Slides a perfect pass to Henry Richard, and Richard threads it in past the helpless Hall. At 7:24 of the third period, the score is 2-2. The ever-persistent Rousseau. Red Berenson and Jean-Guy Talbot, 2 former Montrealers now on the St. Louis roster. The long campaign not too far now from victory champagne. It's halfway through the third period. Yvon Cournoyer behind the net to Backstrom. Out to J.C. Tremblay. And the Canadiens are out in front to stay. A final effort against the clock by Plager. It's all over. The game, the series. The Montreal Canadiens have won their 15th Stanley Cup. But the St. Louis Blues have set a standard for the newly enlarged National Hockey League, which has established in the first season a guarantee of an even richer future for hockey in North America. Someday there will be a Stanley Cup victory parade in St. Louis or elsewhere in the ever-expanding world of the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens and fans are bidding farewell to their retiring coach, Toe Blake. It's the end of a glorious era. But Toe Blake and his Canadiens, and all those dedicated to the game of hockey, past and present, have built the foundation for an even greater era to come.